So welcome back to another edition of Kickback. We're back after a week's break. How is everybody? How's it all been? Been off for a week.
Well, I think we all know how Nick's going to feel.
Yeah, very happy. Bit annoyed about the league, but you know, Champions League final against Tottenham.
Yeah.
Battle as Tottenham, so yeah.
Yeah, that is very true.
It's looking good for us.
I think it's looking very good for Liverpool in the Champions League. How are you feeling about the Cardiff result, if I can mention that?
We don't need to talk about that.
No, should we just skip over that?
Yeah, that never happened. That was just a really bad dream.
I'm in high spirits as well, having seen Villa go through to the playoff final last night.
Through a penalty shootout.
Tammy Abraham with a winning penalty. Jed Steer, hero of the game as well. So that's looking good. Back to Wembley again, and probably not going to get promoted and have a heartbreak again.
Yeah, let's just hope you win the final this time.
My dad texted me saying he's got beers left over from the playoff final last season. He's finally going to use them. He's finally going to crack them open. So
he's kept them that long.
Yeah, he doesn't even. I think that was probably the last time he drunk any alcohol. But
sounds like me.
But yeah,
literally,
I think I kind of like annoyed a few people. I was in Mallorca during the first leg of the playoff semi-final, should I say, Villa against West Brom, and got a little bit loud when we scored the 2 goals. Only Villa fan there as well, so yeah, that wasn't great.
That must have been embarrassing.
It was a little bit. There were a group of Leeds fans in front of me, and I got some weird looks off them. But
I respect your passion.
Yeah, I scared the missus a little bit as well, so nearly spilled a drink. But
that'd have been brilliant.
It was quite entertaining. So we'll move on to what we're actually going to be talking about today. It's basically about clubs who have overperformed this season. So across Europe, there have been some surprise packages. Teams who have gone against the odds, teams who have exceeded expectations and put in great shifts all season, whether that's through having consistency through the season or whether they've had one brilliant patch of form which has resulted in them climbing up the table. So I'm gonna go to Lewis. He's going to run through quite a unique team, really, considering the structure of their club, and just going to give a little run through them and how they've done this season. So take it away then.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, now that I think about it, it's Athletic Bilbao, and they seem to do this a lot. Because I remember a few times when they've been in like the Europa League, they've actually been in relegation in La Liga or something like that.
Yes, they're a weird team. They always seem to do like you never know where they're going to finish. Because I remember like when I was growing up, obviously you'd have Madrid and Barca and Valencia, Atletico, Villarreal, those sort of teams in Europe, and Athletic Bilbao were always round about there, like top half, maybe finishing 6th or something, that sort of area. But it's not been as clear cut recently. We've had some struggles, but just give us a little run through of the last sort of 2 seasons and how that changes has come into play.
Yeah, so the season before this one, they finished 16th.
Not brilliant.
And with a game to go this year, they are currently 7th, and from what I can remember, they can't move. I don't think they can move down anymore. And
okay.
I don't think they can move up either.
Basically nailed on to finish in that position.
And I looked at... They went out of the Copa del Rey in the round of 16, so I don't know if that was good or bad.
Round of 16... Yeah, I can't remember who they played, actually, but... It's been a weird season because I seem to remember didn't they start off pretty badly this season. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they started off with quite a bad run of form during the early stages of the season and kind of turned it round. I think they maybe had a managerial change or something. Well, I'm getting confused with the season before. I'm not too sure, but it's been a bit of a weird time for them.
Yeah, and I've had a look at some of their results in the league to see if any of them stood out. And what I found was they drew both of their games with Barcelona.
Yeah.
They drew firstly at home, they drew 0-0 with them. And they also had a red card in that game.
Okay. Not too bad.
They went to Barcelona and drew 1-1. And then they drew with Real Madrid 1-1.
Yeah.
And I feel like those performances, especially not losing to Barcelona, that could have really helped them.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's helped them climb a little bit up the table.
because
100%.
like if you can just look at Wolves, they get points off the big teams, and that's clearly helped them as well.
Yeah,
but I feel
definitely.
like with Bilbao, if you know you can take points off Barcelona and Real Madrid, then you're going to believe in yourself more.
Yeah, I've just looked up actually some of Athletic Bilbao's fixtures. There was a run between the 27th of August and the 3rd of December where they didn't win a single game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games without a win. But since then, they've been winning more games than anything else, really, than draws. So it's like been a season of two halves. But I think it's actually been really impressive that they've managed to turn that round, because more often than not, you don't see that.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think the manager must have done something, or the players must have come out of those two games against Barcelona and Real Madrid.
Yeah,
I think those probably were the games that turned it round for them, because I'm pretty sure that those games against Barcelona and Real Madrid, they were kind of around about the mid-season mark.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's right. I think they were around about the mid-season sort of time. I'm
guessing about when they were coming out of that bad patch.
Yeah, so when they came out of the bad patch, they beat Girona. They also then went on to beat Sevilla. They beat Betis as well, who were having, I think, a pretty good season at that point. I don't think, apart from... Oh, they've also beat Atletico. 2-0 win against Atletico in March as well.
Was that at home or away?
That was a home one.
They seem to be pretty strong at home.
They seem to be.
Especially against the big teams.
Yeah, it looks like it. But yeah, they've had an intriguing season. I think it's a good one to go for. But give us a little run through of their sort of policy in terms of who they can sign and who they can't sign. Well, because it's sort of unique to them. Really.
I know that they can only sign players from a certain area, like in Spain, and I find that quite strange. But also, it kind of, because I looked at some of their transfers, and it kind of makes sense to me now that they're probably not going to be splashing out a lot of money on players, because their highest transfer was 28.8 million.
Right, okay.
And there were two transfers in the 20 million mark. Apart from that, they didn't go above 5 million.
No, it's not too surprising, I don't think.
Also, primarily, they've been getting defenders as well. Kind of like defensive-minded players.
There seem to be a lot of sort of good young Basque defenders. Obviously, they had Aymeric Laporte, who they sold on, who's arguably been second best defender behind Van Dijk this season in the league. Centre-back, definitely. You look at some of the other players, they've still got Inigo Martinez, who's a centre-back as well, who's still on their books. He looks pretty good. Nick, how are you feeling about Athletic Bilbao this season? Do you reckon they've kind of turned it around? Do you think it's a good time for their fans?
Yeah, I do. I think the fans are aware of the situation around the club. They're limited to how far they can develop. It's a shame, really, that in the modern day, it's nice. Don't get me wrong, it's niche.
Yeah, definitely.
But if I was a fan, you want the best for your club. You want to be winning trophies. Competing in the the Europa League, Champions League. So I think they definitely peak, and I think coming from 16th to 7th in one season it is good. But I think maybe this season hasn't been an outrageously good season. I think last season was just an awful season for them, considering the players they've got. They've got players who are, every transfer window linked with clubs. I know Laporte was linked with Liverpool before he signed for City. They've got Inaki Williams, who's linked with many other players. Adaris is obviously getting on a bit. So I think it's really it's a really difficult one, because you'd never ever see that anywhere other than Spain, a team who are limited to where they can sign their players from. But 7th is probably their peak. That's as far as they can go, and fair play to them for getting there, considering the limits on their squad.
Yeah, I mean, considering that they've had time in Europe as well over the last sort of couple of decades, it's pretty amazing considering their reach in terms of the players that they can bring in. They've had players like Fernando Llorente, a couple of other players come through their ranks. But yeah, I mean, it's been very difficult for them.
Herrera's the one that's brings to mind.
Yeah, and Herrera, yeah. And they've also brought Yuri Berchiche, however you say his name.
That's one of the transfers
from PSG. So they managed to get him. They've got a guy called Kenan Kodro as well, who's actually a Bosnian international, but he was born in San Sebastian in the Basque country of Spain, so he qualifies to play for them. But yeah, I mean, I think it is... You can also credit some of it to their manager, Gaithka Garitano. He came in I think, December, replacing Eduardo Berizzo, who was there and kind of guided them through that terrible patch where they went 13 games without a victory. And it was sort of coincided with Gaithka Garitano's appointment when they started that sort of turn in form. Sort of like the Sam Allardyce effect, I suppose. They just wanted to make sure they had a safe pair of hands in there. But yeah, I mean, they've also got Iñaki Williams, who we mentioned was being linked to Liverpool a few seasons back. He scored 12 goals in the league. So, the transfer rumours have all dried up, and you kind of think maybe he's found his level now, being at Athletic Bilbao. But if they've got themselves a striker who's scoring 12 league goals, 14 in all competitions, it's not too bad for... a club of their calibre. What do you think the future holds now then for Athletic Bilbao? Do you think they can go on to the next level? Do you think the competition's too good? Because obviously you've had big upturns in form of a certain club that Nick's going to be covering in a little bit, and also Real Betis as well. I've had some great signings, obviously Lo Celso, Bartra and William Carvalho. So they're getting a little bit more clout. Do you think?
Your Queen's been a bit... He's like had a second wind. I don't know if you've seen his goal at the weekend.
I think so, yeah.
Absolute thunder rocket it was. But yeah, he was always
gone on forever, yeah.
He was always destined to go back there. So I think,
definitely, yeah.
I think players like that, a bit like Cambiasso at Leicester, they almost the catalyst for teams to do well. And
yeah,
Joaquin's definitely had that effect at Betis this season.
100%. Do you think this is a time that Athletic Bilbao can push on then and get back towards maybe European football? Obviously, they're not far off as it is, but it looks like they're going to be missing out this season. But do you think that is a realistic prospect ahead of next season?
I think something like that is very difficult to say, because with a club like Athletic Bilbao,
yeah,
I think it's clear they've got to rely quite a lot more on their youth.
I think that's the thing, because they rely on their own youth so much. It's one of those things where if you're just relying on your own youth academy, you're going to occasionally come across a really good crop of players, and then maybe you'll go through a patch of 5-10 years where you don't bring any good players through who have that natural ability to play at that level. So it's kind of, sometimes you might be looking at European football, sometimes you might be battling relegation. A big question as well, do you think it's time that Athletic Bilbao scrap this policy of only signing Basque players? Do you think they'd benefit from that?
Yeah, I think that would, because I think if they did that, they'd be a lot more consistent. And also, what you've got to think is, I'm pretty sure that this will probably go with the youth team as well, so they can only get youth players from that area as well.
I think so, yeah.
And then that means they can send out scouts wherever they want. So I think the problem is they're very limited with the types of players they can get anywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that because they have a lot of seasons like this where they do well and then they drop down.
Yeah, definitely.
I think just scrapping that transfer policy would probably have them in more positions like this as well.
I think so. What about you, Nick? Do you think that would be beneficial? Or because there have been times in their history where they haven't had that policy, and I believe they went back to it. So they had some like British managers, and I don't think it does apply to their managers actually, because they've had people like Bielsa, but they had times in their history when they haven't had this policy. Do you think going back to that now is the time, in terms of if they want to compete with the best of them in La Liga?
I think it's really hard to fight against. Clubs have identities, don't they?
Definitely.
Liverpool have this identity being, an old mighty club with good morals, and certain clubs have identities, and obviously this is Bilbao's. It's different. There's no club like it really in the world. It's obviously stopping them. That's a no-brainer. It's stopping them from developing as a club.
Yeah.
It's one of those. You put it to the fans. I think
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
democracy is the best way to go forward. Put it to the fans. See what 100%. They say. the fans want to support a team that they identify with. If they decide they want players purely from the Basque region, it's worked. They haven't been relegated from La Liga. It's not the worst project ever. But it's something that you'd have to ask the fans. I don't think us three sitting around here would have any idea of what it's like to support a team.
Yeah.
Where your players... I mean, if we supported a club where all our players were from Birmingham, I'm sure we'd get a bit ticked off when we're getting slammed every week. So... I don't know, it's something you'd have to speak to the fans about, and having not been around that region of Spain, it's really difficult to comment on, but there's no bones about it. It's definitely just stopping them from developing.
That could be an idea, actually, forming an XI of Birmingham-born players. Maybe we'll do that in a future podcast, but I've just been looking, I mean, they've had some great players who they have managed to sell on, in terms of Fernando Llorente, obviously Kepa as well. He went to Chelsea, the goalkeeper. I forgot about him, that he came from there. But apart from that, the only teams, apart from bringing through their youth academy, they can bring sort of homegrown players in from like Real Sociedad, teams like that, other clubs that are around them in that area of Spain. But they're limiting themselves. But I think if you want to stick to that tradition, then and the fans are happy with that as well, and that's what they support, then. They've done a really good job of it in terms of managing to stay in the top flight, and I mean, I think it could be a really interesting future for them. Should we move on then to the next club?
Yeah,
do you think that's rounded it off, or So who's your club, Nick? I've kind of hinted at it. But,
so we're going down the La Liga route again.
Yeah.
Please excuse the pronunciation. G's and Spanish don't go well, but Getafe? So yeah,
I think that's it. That's how I've normally heard it pronounced. Yeah,
we'll say Getafe for the Brummies amongst us, but Getafe.
Yeah, Getafe or something.
So Getafe are a team 100% in. They're progressing the right way. So 16-17, they were in the Segunda, and they only come up through the promotion, through the playoffs, essentially.
Yeah.
So I think the teams that went up that season were Girona, who look like they're going to be relegated this season, and I think Levante went up as well, who each year seems to be, they go up one year, they go down the next year, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it seems Getafe are a team. I think we spoke about Inter Milan earlier, who are they have seasoned professionals, have players, who've sorry about the cliche, but been around the block, I suppose.
Yeah.
You look at some of the players that Getafe have got. I'll just read you through some. You'll definitely know these players. Matthew Flamini, old Arsenal midfielder. One of their record signings is Ignacio Miguel, again, who's an Arsenal centre back. I think he played for Sheffield Wednesday for a few seasons.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
They got Sebastian Cristoforo, who's the old Fiorentina midfielder. He might be on loan there. I'm really not sure.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
They got Nemanja Maksimovic, the Valencia midfielder, and then the fullback Vitorino Atunes. You probably know him from Dynamo Kiev, in the Portugal squad that won the Euros 2016 as well.
Yeah.
So how talking about, we was talking about Bilbao and how they had a really bad season, and they sprung back. Getafe have gradually, got there, so they come third in the Segunda in 16-17 and got promoted. 17-18 they come 8th, which for a first, bit similar to Wolves in the Premier League.
Yeah,
really good first season for them. And then this season they're currently 5th in the league. They've got one game left, which is a home game against Villarreal, who have obviously had their own issues this season. It seems that Valencia are going to come and just nab them to the last place in the Champions League.
Valencia have had a weird one as well, haven't they?
Yeah.
They started off very
hit or miss. I think ever since I've grown up, they've been very hit or miss. Like, I thought they'd give Arsenal a really good game, but it seems it's really one-sided.
If you look back to that Benitez era, since then it's been like up and down, really. I think for Valencia,
I do think they did have a good they had a good golf of class in their team. Then when they had Aymar, Mata,
Albelda,
that sort of team. So they're 5th at the moment. They're on the same points as Valencia. It's just they've just got a better result, and Sevilla are waiting in the wings as they always are.
Yeah.
With a late run to rob the 4th place, but it seems Valencia are favourites. I think the squad quality between the two teams is large. I think Valencia have got a much better team, a much younger team as well.
Yeah.
I was doing my maths, so anyone, don't hold me to this because I'm awful at maths. But the mean age of their team is 29, which is old.
Inter Milan vibes.
Yeah, it really is. They're two strikers this year. They haven't scored that many goals, Getafe, but the players at the top of the pitch have done all the scoring, which is what you want for these sort of teams.
Yeah.
So they've got two players in the top 10 in the scoring in the La Liga, scoring charts.
That's pretty good.
Jamie Mata has got 14 goals and 6 assists in 33 games. And 37-year-old Jorge Molina has 14 in 37 with 4 assists.
Not bad going.
Yeah, a bit Glenn Murray-esque, isn't it, I suppose? But that, I think when you've got two strikers at the top, they've got 14 goals each,
Yeah.
Using examples of clubs in the Premier League, but their top goal scorer is a penalty taker, like Palace, for example.
Yeah,
Milivojevic, yeah. Even to a degree, Lewis, Man U, like their top goal scorers this season is, I think Pogba's their top goal scorer. Is that right? Potentially Rashford.
Yeah, I think it's one of them too.
So you want your players at the top. This is why you buy your players. You want your players at the top to do your scoring, and them too. I mean, Molina's 37, so that. He might not. This might be his last big season, but fair play to him. 14 goals in 37 games.
There's always that one
really
striker in La Liga every season who's like knocking on the door of 40, who scores like over 15 goals.
But it's usually Adaris, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
Adaris usually is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been his mantle for the last few seasons. But it seems like Molina's took that from him this year. It seems. They're definitely overachieving. The manager Pepe Bordalás has been there since they come up. So, start of 2016, and he's took them on an adventure in itself. Will they get any higher than what they are now? You would say no. With the clubs above them, the only 3 clubs above them are Madrid, Real, Atletico, and Barca. They'd take a miracle to get anywhere near them. But it'd be nice to see a team like Getafe get into the Champions League. If they were in the Champions League, I'd love Liverpool to get them. Yeah, it doesn't seem a team who'd trouble any of the European giants or anything like that. So. But it's nice. It's nice for them. It's a bit similar to what the adventure Leicester went on, where they got promoted and were champions within 3 seasons, whatever it was. And they're definitely overachieving. The manager's on a short-term contract till next year. They lost 2-0 at the weekend to Barcelona, which obviously is to be expected. But you know what? They've had a fantastic season. You would have thought Girona would have finished above them, and it's actually gone the other way because Girona have got some really good players. Probably a better squad.
Yeah, I mean, they did really well last season, didn't they?
They did. I remember they beat... Or was it this season? They might have beat Barcelona this season at the Nou Camp.
I'm not sure.
I think they did because they're quite local rivals. I have family in that region, and it's a real big game, Barca and Girona.
I know they got Patrick Roberts because obviously they've got that link to Man City.
Yeah,
and they had the Christian Stuani as well, the ex Middlesbrough striker. He's been on form since he's gone there. But I think what you say about that being that gradual kind of improvements, I think that's what's benefited them as well. Where, I think there's a few clubs that have done it in the Premier League as well. You look at people like Leicester, as he said. I think you can sort of credit Bournemouth as well for doing a similar kind of thing, where they take kind of these very small steps forward each season. I think obviously Getafe have been in La Liga a few fair times, and obviously it was Bournemouth's first time, so it's slightly different. But they just make those little improvements and ensure that they don't get relegated every season, and they just build and build and build. Like, I can't see Getafe going down next season or anything. I just can't see it.
No, I think the situation they find themselves in as well, usually when you have a team like this, it gets picked apart. Yeah. So like the Leicester team when they lost Kante and, they lost Mahrez, Drinkwater, these sorts of players. Yeah. This team won't be picked apart. They've got players, looking at, obviously, using our old reliable transfer market projections.
Yeah.
The most expensive player they've got is a centre-back who's Dijon for 13 million, which in the current window is absolutely nothing.
No, that's true.
They haven't got prosperous owners. They've got loads of money. They're not a club who are, you identify as rich or anything like that. It just seems that they're, the foundation's there. They've got the right morals going forward. It's just whether they can maintain. It's going to be really difficult for them next season to have another season like this.
Yeah, definitely.
It just depends on the players they bring in, and they'll obviously have a few players who'll be dropping out. If Molina would be foolish not to continue with that, return for this season. But we'd have to wait and see. But they wouldn't get much money out of the current squad they've got. It says their squad value is only 55 million, which in the modern days, nothing.
Yeah, I'd say most of the teams above them probably have at least one player who's valued more than that just by himself.
100%.
Or at least that.
Yeah, I think you look at a club like Getafe and then you look at Fulham in the Prem and you think that's like the two extremes of how things can go when you get promoted. I mean, Getafe, obviously, as he said, little investment, little money, and have managed to gradually bump up, kind of move their way up the table. Yes, there have been teams like Villarreal and Girona who have been flopping a little bit, but, you can't take any credit away from Getafe. And then you look at Fulham, who obviously come up, they spend over 100 mil, they bring in Seri, they bring in Mitrovic on a permanent deal, Schürrle, Vieta on Gisa, and a few defenders as well, like Le Marchand. 2 goalkeepers as well, I think, Rico and Fabry or something. Something like that. They spend a stupid amount of money, and look what's happened to them. They've been absolutely shambolic.
I'll give a shout out to Zambo and Gisa. He's got to be the worst player I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, and he was brilliant the season before he signed. Him and Jean-Michel Seri as well. It's a strange one because, you'd think that maybe especially Seri, I think, will be picked up by maybe a Premier League club, maybe like a Brighton or that sort of thing.
Similar to what happened to Idrissa Gueye with Villa.
Yeah, very true.
I remember when I was watching Villa that season, because he joined in the year Villa, did really badly. And I said to everyone, he might be the shining light in this team.
Yeah.
I'd give him another chance, and he's gone to Everton, and didn't he end up being linked to PSG and to turn them down?
Yeah, I think to Arsenal maybe as well.
I think Seri's one of them. I'd give him another chance, but there's probably 3 or 4 players in that.
I'd say Seri, Mitrovic. I think Schürrle was only on loan, maybe.
Obviously, Sessegnon's still young. He hasn't had a good season. Sessegnon.
No, he's not really been given the.
So there's a few players in there who you would give another chance to. Yeah. Maybe Fosu, Mensah, I'm not sure, but
possibly,
we'll see how they get on.
Alfie Mawson, potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems like he's got a decent ceiling on him. But yeah, I mean, I think Getafe are the epitome of a club who have done it the right way in terms of a club with not too big of a budget, competing with clubs who do have a huge budget. In Real Madrid, in Barca, I think Valencia, owned by Peter Lim as well, who has a stupid amount of money. So yeah, I think they've gone about it completely the right way. I think we'll move on then. I think we'll go on to my candidate. I will just touch on, obviously, these two guys on Athletic Bilbao and Getafe. We will be carrying on that La Liga theme later on when we move on to Transfer Window Waffle, where we will be taking on Barcelona. We will be suggesting 3 perfect signings for Barcelona at the back end of this podcast, so do stay tuned for that. And whilst I'm here just doing this little interlude part, I'll also mention kickbacksportspod@gmail.com, as you know, is our email, at kickback_pod, Instagram and Twitter, and then if you find us at facebook.com/kickback football podcast or kickback podcast, can't quite remember, but we'll leave them on in the description. You've got the links on the side of SoundCloud as well. So I'm going to be swapping over to a different league before we return to La Liga with Barca in the next section. I'm going to be going to Ligue 1, so over to France, not too far to travel. I'm going to be touching on Lille. Lille are a very interesting one. They've had some kind of a few changes in fortunes over the last decade or so. Obviously, you might remember them winning the league back in 2011-2012, I think it was that season, when they had the likes of Idrissa Gueye, like we've just been mentioning, also Eden Hazard, Gervinho, and Johan Cabaye, among other players in there. They had a pretty decent squad at that point. Since then, it's been a bit topsy-turvy for Lille. They've let go of a few decent players, but they've been bringing in, they've been recruiting incredibly well. So you might remember last season they did very poorly. They finished 17th. This season they finished 2nd. So we'll just give a little run through for you of some of the players that they have at Lille. Firstly, their manager is Christophe Gaultier, who is a bit of an elder statesman type manager, very wise. A lot of players have said they've learned a lot from him. Very good at improving young talent. And they've had some absolutely incredible players. I mean, I'll run through a list of players who are 23 or younger, who have had a decent amount of minutes. You look at Jonathan Bomba, Nicolas Pepe, Zeki Celik, Mike Maignan, Jonathan Ikone, Thiago Maia, Boubakary Soumare as well. They've all had sort of upwards of 15, 20 games this season under their belt, so it's been great for their trajectories in terms of boosting their potential a little bit. They also have some match intelligence and some more seasoned talent in there as well, with the likes of Jose Font, the ex-Southampton and West Ham centre-back, and also Loic Remy, who you might remember from Chelsea quite a while back now. So have you two been looking at Lille at all this season, and have you followed any of their fortunes?
When they beat PSG, I started. Well, when they absolutely destroyed PSG,
5-1.
Yeah. I kind of started to take notice. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I was really...
wasn't expecting that.
No, not at all. I mean, I think PSG have not been as impressive as we expected this season. Obviously, they've walked the league because, the likes of Monaco have had a dreadful season, Marseille have had a pretty poor season as well, and Lyon have been slightly off the mark during periods of time. Obviously, they've got some great talent, but it's been Lille who have managed to actually get that second place finish. They're 6 points clear of third place as well, so pretty good going. If we run through some of their top players, obviously it's Nicolas Pepe, their winger, who's been getting the most sort of fanfare this season. Been linked with all manner of clubs. Arsenal, who else has he been linked to? I think he's been linked to PSG, I think, as well. And
I've seen Tottenham.
Tottenham's another one. And there are certainly a lot of clubs who could do with some bolstering on the right hand side. Nicolas Pepe, 20 goals and 11 assists in Ligue 1 this season, so not bad going at all. On the other flank, they also have Jonathan Bomba, who they signed from Saint Etienne on a free. He scored 12 goals, so to have two players who aren't even their centre forwards getting over 10 goals is pretty good going for them. They also have Jonathan Ikone, a former PSG youth prodigy. 8 assists he's had. And you've also got to look at their young goalkeeper, who I think is 23 years of age, Mike Maignan. 14 clean sheets in 36. So he's the second best goalkeeping record behind Nice's Walter Benitez, who we touched on a few weeks back in Transfer Window Waffle. So it's a really good team in terms of the balance that they've got in there as well. They've got that young prodigious talent, the likes of Pepe, Bomba, Thiago Maia, but then they have those sort of experienced heads like Jose Font, who has still proven to be absolutely brilliant. As Lewis told me just before we kicked off this podcast, Lille do actually have the best defensive record in terms of they've conceded the least goals in Ligue 1 this season. They're currently on a 7-game streak without losing as well. They've had a 9-game streak earlier on in the campaign. So do we think that Lille could be the second best team in France if they push on? Because it's looking to me like Lyon might lose some of their best players.
Well, it looks like that for Lille as well.
Yeah,
because
fair point actually. Yeah.
Now Nicolas Pepe is being linked with just about every big team in Europe as well. So it depends on the players that they lose, really.
That's true. I think they've done really well to have Jonathan Bomba on a free from Saint Etienne. He was a player that I looked at. I did a blog post a while back for Backpage Football saying that West Ham should have signed him in the summer on a free from Saint Etienne. And he's done absolutely incredibly at Lille. As I said, 12 goals this campaign from the left-hand flank. There's also Rafael Leao as well, who's a Portuguese striker who's quite young too, who's also been having a decent season. So I think it's only looking good for Lille. I mean, you do have those players that you will have to overturn, the likes of Jose Font, maybe Loic Remy as well. I think it's about 31 at the minute. So they are going to have to overhaul the squad a little bit. Do you think that they could be the closest challengers to PSG over the coming 5 years, let's say?
I just think PSG I think with the money that they've got, PSG could be 15 points off Lille. So, hypotheticals here. Yeah. In January, they could sign 3 players and they could be 10 points clear by March.
And
definitely. I think so. I think it's going to be very difficult for any club.
And also, I think with as Nick just said, with PSG's money, if any team did start coming close to them, they could just buy the players.
Could do a bit of a buy-in.
Yeah, they could do a buy-in.
Classic buy-in where they just sign. Well, I suppose they kind of did that with signing Mbappe from Monaco. They think Monaco have done a madness and managed to beat us to the league title. Who's their best player? Kylian Mbappe. We'll sign him. And then that's completely... Well, not that alone. Obviously, they had a lot of other players taken off their hands, but that's kind of ruined Monaco's fortunes, and now they're still looking at the prospect of going down. So that was a position, actually, as I said, that Lille were in last season in 17th. And I think it's been... You can also credit Christophe Gaultier as well, their manager, to in terms of changing their fortunes a little bit, because he is one of those managers who is incredibly wise. He's very good at giving advice. He's very tactically adept as well, in terms of he knows how to set up his team, and as we said, defensively incredibly solid with Jose Font at the back, and some very, very able players around him in that back line as well, and Mike Maignan between the sticks. So I think it's looking good in terms of they have that young talent. Whether they can compete with Lyon, who knows? Maybe if Lyon lose the likes of Memphis Depay and Ndombele, maybe also Ferland Mendy and Toussaint, players like that, and Aouar, maybe Lyon's fortunes will change as well. But as Lewis touched on, Nicolas Pepe could well leave. So I think it's a difficult one for Lille. How do you guys feel about Lille as a club generally? Do you think that they do you think this is a bit fluky, or do you think they've really worked towards getting the second place finish and they're deserved of it? How do you feel?
I feel like they've been opportunistic, to be honest.
I think they have.
They've gone there and they've done well in the season where teams haven't done so well.
Yes, that's true.
Lyon domestically haven't been that strong, although they beat City in the Champions League. And it seems Lyon are a team who will struggle to keep their players. I think you might find Fekir and even Depay might leave in the summer.
Fekir as well, yeah.
So I think, they've just taken, they've stole a gap basically in the division. Monaco have had a dreadful season, so if you look at the top,
switched fortunes really with Monaco.
Yeah, they have 100%, and I think the signing of he said, was it Sarr? Ismaila Sarr, is that his name? Was it Pepe?
Bamba and Pepe.
I'm on about Pepe, sorry. Pepe's been... I remember watching Pepe playing. Where did they get him from? They got him from... Was it a lower French? Was it a Mainz or someone like that?
Someone that, or like Angers or something.
Yeah, they got him from a lower French. And I remember sitting there with my brother and I said to him, you know what? He'll go and play for a better team next season. He'll be a lot better. And it's come true. So he might go on to bigger and better things. But... yeah, they've definitely seen an opportunity and they've took it. So they won't get near PSG. They haven't got the club. They haven't got the money to do that.
No, that's very true.
But 5-1 over PSG is really impressive, and fair play to them for getting second in the league.
I'm hoping if they do lose Nicolas Pepe, they're not going to be bringing back Anwar El Ghazi from Villa on loan. He's out on loan at Villa at the minute, but I think we have an option to buy him. So hopefully we'll be able to keep him whether or not we get promoted. They've also got Yassine Benzia as well, who's a name I recognise, is out on loan at Fenerbahce. But yeah, I mean, I think it is. You can obviously credit Lille for changing their fortune. Going from 17th to 2nd is brilliant in one campaign. But at the same time, we have looked at Monaco, Lyon and Marseille, who have had poor seasons domestically. I think really Lyon and Marseille just need to overhaul their manager, mainly. I mean, I don't think either of them have particularly good managers in terms of Bruno Genesio, and I think Rudy Garcia is Marseille's boss. They just need a bit of a change, I think. I think actually Mourinho has been linked with both jobs, so that'd be an interesting twist to the tale. But do you think, can you see Lille managing to achieve this feat next season, or do you think this is a one-off for them? Either of you two, really.
Well, considering what Nick said, that the other teams haven't really performed that well, I could see it kind of being a fluke season. But then again, it depends if all the teams around them keep their players. Because if they start losing their players like Lyon and Marseille and Montpellier, this could become the standard. Like
definitely,
this 72. I think they're on 72 points, are they?
I think so.
Something like that.
I think it is.
That could become the standard for second place.
Yeah, I think that's 72, and then Lyon 66.
Yeah,
I think
that could become the standard. So I think it all depends on what the teams around them do as well.
I mean, Monaco are one of those clubs where, you know, they'll have a good crop of players, and then maybe they'll lose them and have an off season, and then they usually have the money to reinvest in the club. You know, obviously they brought in Fabregas, they brought in Gelson Martins, who they're looking at signing permanently. Obviously, we had a look at Monaco in Transfer Window Waffle a few weeks back, and they do always tend to strengthen after they have this down season. Obviously, they lost Mbappe, they lost Bernardo Silva, Fabinho, Mendy, all these kind of talents, and that's going to break a team. But now that they've got Leonardo Jardim back, maybe across a season, they can get a bit of stability, maybe bring in some good players. So I can see Monaco getting back up towards the top of the table next season, maybe finishing in a Champions League, Europa League spot. So yeah, I don't think Lille will replicate this, but I can see them maybe finishing in a Europa League spot or something like that next season. So I think that rounds it off. Anything more to say about Lille?
No, not really.
No.
Good luck in the transfer window.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought you were going to say good luck in the Champions League then.
Well, as well.
Yeah, that too. I mean, they're looking at that obviously next season. That'll be very good for them as a club in terms of the money.
Another club I'd want my Liverpool getting.
That is true. Yeah.
They seem very beatable. Watch them beat us 3-0, now I've said that, but they look very beatable.
Yeah, that is true. I think there are still big areas of their squad that they need to look at, but yeah, it's all dependent on whether they lose. They
still got Loic Renner?
Yeah, they do. I don't think he's been great this season, but he's kind of been there when they've needed him. And I think I remember him scoring a really good goal a few weeks back.
Was that the Panenka over the wall? I think I've seen that one.
I think it was. Yeah.
I didn't know. Was that for a few weeks? I didn't know if that was last season. That's the thing.
I think it was.
I think it was a few weeks ago.
Yeah. I was kind of like not a very clear memory, but yeah, do let us know whether that was him and when that was, because we want to know. So I think we'll move on now to, as we said, Transfer Window Waffle. We will be covering Barcelona. Obviously, they were kicked out of the Champions League by Liverpool, and they have also had a few criticisms this season in terms of the way that they've played, being over-reliant on Lionel Messi as well, which I think has been more of a problem for them this season than it has previously. A lot of fans getting on the back of Ernesto Valverde, which from the outside looks weird considering how well that they've done, you know, getting to the semis of the Champions League, winning the La Liga title, and, you know, it looks like they could win another trophy this season. So it's a bit of a strange one, but we're going to be looking at why Ernesto Valverde is getting slammed left, right and centre by Barca fans and also journalists and other football people alike. So we're going to be putting forward 3 transfers in Transfer Window Waffle. So welcome back, one and all, to Transfer Window Waffle. As we just said, we're going to be covering Barcelona in this segment. We will also be doing a little question at the end, which covers something that we've already touched on a little bit, but we'll be going to that at the end of this one. So Barcelona, as I said before, yeah, they're the club that we will be covering in today's Transfer Window Waffle. So a team who seem to have been over-reliant on Messi, have big gaping holes in their squad, and we're not entirely sure where they're going to be strengthening this summer. So I'm going to hand over to Nick, who's going to run us through his candidates to sign for Barcelona. So over to you.
Right, so I think obviously watching them in the second leg of the Champions League, Messi was trying to dribble the ball from all over the pitch. They clearly had no plan, no creativity, which for Barcelona's a crazy thing to say. You know, we've been used to them having, Xavi and Iniesta, these players who have created so much for them. And I think Coutinho was brought in to do that. I just feel like he's got a big weight on his shoulders. He's really struggling to show that creative flair he was once shown for Liverpool. So hopefully the player that I say now won't follow the same trend. But the first player I'll be talking about will be Christian Eriksen.
It's a good shout.
The reason is, he's still very young, considering...
Is he 26 or something like that?
Yes, considering how long we've known about him, he's played at 2 major tournaments as well. If you look at any club in the Premier League and there's a player who nobody dislikes, it's Christian Eriksen.
That guy, yeah.
He's just quality, he's a nice player, don't get himself into any trouble, the passes he can pick out. Even when Tottenham were struggling in the home leg against Ajax, he can still find a pass. Yeah. And that's the beauty of him. If you've got players running onto the ball, such as Messi, Coutinho, Suarez, whoever it might be, if you've got somebody like Eriksen just sitting behind, you've always got a chance of, that plan B. Because obviously Barcelona's main plan is everything through Messi. So
I think it's gone even more that way. This season, it feels like it anyway.
Yeah, this is what I mean. It looks like the midfield has never been replaced. They've brought in players. I mean, I was just looking at the business they did in the summer, Barcelona.
Yeah,
they signed Artur for 30 million, who looks completely out of his depth. They signed Malcolm for 36 million from Bordeaux.
Hasn't really done much.
Almost to say to Roma, we'll have him, just so you can't have him.
Pretty much.
And then they obviously signed. Who's the other player? They signed Vidal, didn't they? They had David Vidal for 16 million, which is...
We won't mention their January signings either.
No.
We'll just skirt over the Kevin Prince Boateng and Jason Murillo.
Yeah, don't know. I think they literally just picked 2 names out of a hat and just thought, we'll sign them. So the way I look at it now, Barcelona are definitely in a transition period. They're an ageing team. When they played Tottenham earlier in the season away at Wembley, they looked unreal. Like they played so well, but everything went through Messi.
Yeah.
Second leg against Liverpool, they were just so bad. I mean, as a Liverpool fan, you want to beat the best teams, and a part of that was Liverpool and how they played them. But we were definitely aided by how bad Barcelona were. That is absolutely there's no bones about it. Barcelona were horrendous.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think Eriksen's a good shout. I think he might be losing his patience with Tottenham. He's clearly a sort of player who seems a serial winner, and he deserves it to himself to go and prove himself at that level. And rather than get to somewhere like United where it's not guaranteed, or somewhere like PSG where domestically you won't be challenged, I think Barcelona's a perfect destination for him, and I think he's affordable. I really don't think he'll be that far out of the realms of possibility to sign. I think in the modern market you're probably looking anything between 60 and 80 million for him.
Yeah,
which I think's affordable.
I think that's reasonable. Because I think, you kind of look at Spurs, obviously they haven't signed any players at all for the last 2 seasons. Daniel Levy is notorious for being very stingy. Obviously they have had that stadium that they've had to pay for, but the wage structures obviously are way off a lot of the other top 6 sides, so it's maybe coming to the stage now, if they don't make that step up and show, what they're made of this summer, maybe you like sort of Eriksen, Ali, Kane will start to have their heads turned slightly. So I think that's a realistic one as well. I think Eriksen could be a really good shout for them. I also think Coutinho he's been pretty good, but at the same time I don't feel like he necessarily fits at Barca. Obviously that we have been hearing shouts of him going to Manchester United. There's rumours of Bayern, I think I've seen recently as well.
There's a transfer rumour out this week which definitely opened my eyes. Apparently Liverpool are close to agreeing a fee for him for 60 million. Which would be very shrewd if they got him back for 85 million cheaper than what they sold him
for.
So,
amazing.
I think Phil Thompson said this week that Liverpool are a club who Coutinho fits. He fits them, how we playing. Put him in the midfield. I think Liverpool will have a really good chance of even going further with it. But it's just rumours at the moment. I can't see it happening. I can't see Barcelona being that idiotic to let him go for that value. But it'd be interesting to see his future if Griezmann goes there, because that looks a certainty now.
Yeah, that's true.
And if Eriksen went there, you'd have to be shipped out somewhere, so it'd be interesting to see where he goes.
I think Griezmann didn't yesterday. I think he's confirmed that he's leaving Atletico.
Yeah, they've triggered his release clause, haven't they?
Yeah, you would expect that to be a Barcelona move on the cards. Lewis, do you think that's the same sort of position that they need to strengthen in, that kind of Eriksen role, or is it something in a different area on the park that you've focused on for us?
Well, I've got a few of my own, and then I looked at the rumours and I found these rumours quite interesting. Yeah. So I'll just list off the players on the rumours. So on Transfer Market, they are rumoured with Lacazette, Mata, Richarlison and Marcus Rashford.
Right.
Those are the rumours.
I actually saw an article yesterday about Lacazette saying that he's one of those players where you think if you put him in the right team, he would be a 25 goal sort of striker. Obviously he's had a pretty formidable partnership with Aubameyang this season at Arsenal, but I feel like if he had better players around him, a better kind of attack around him. Obviously Arsenal, apart from Aubameyang, don't have any pace really in that final third. If they had a team who do have more pace, and a team who would just kind of better in that aspect of the field, really, I think Lacazette would flourish. And I think Barca could be a decent move. What do you think of that, Nick? Do you think they need to replace Suarez now? Maybe with a Lacazette type signing?
Well, firstly, what I'm going to say is Lacazette is 100% a better football player than Aubameyang. Aubameyang's a better goal scorer.
Yeah, definitely.
But Lacazette has a tendency. He's an unselfish player for starters.
Yes,
he's got a little bit about him as well. I mean, you looked at him when he played for Lyon, and he was just a serial goal scorer. He's gone to Arsenal. He's played a different role, and I think Barcelona are crying out for someone like Lacazette. And I think since you've mentioned it. Yeah. I think I've been thinking of a player who fits the mould of Barcelona. You know what, Lacazette is certainly that player.
Definitely.
It's just A, his availability, B, his price, and C, will he want to go to a club where he's not guaranteed? He can't even get in at Arsenal some weeks, so
that is true.
It'd be interesting to see if he's getting a bit like Giroud. Does he want to go and play second fiddle to somebody else? I don't know. I think he deserves it to himself to go and be a starter.
I think you want him to be a star man. You want him to be a starting striker. And it's also that thing of, I think, with Aubameyang getting into his early 30s, Arsenal going to want to sell their younger sort of striker. He could be there for them for the next sort of 7-8 years potentially if they manage to keep hold of him. But I think if they are looking to replace Suarez, then I think Lacazette's the guy to go for. Obviously, striker has been an important aspect because, as we've said, everything has gone through Messi this season. Suarez has still put up relatively good numbers, but I've heard that apparently most of his statistics are about 25% down on where they were last campaign, so there is obviously that age is starting to show.
You talking about Messi?
About Suarez.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, I don't think Messi owes anyone anything, does it?
No,
especially
no, definitely not. But do you think this season is the season to bring in a Suarez replacement? Do you think leave it another season, or do you think maybe bring in a young player and gradually ease out Suarez and ease the younger player in?
I'd probably say if you're going to do anything, bring a younger player in. I don't think you bring in a replacement yet.
I think Suarez is irreplaceable at the moment. There's no player to replace Suarez.
No, I mean, I still think there are areas of the field where they need strengthening. Kind of more. What's the word I'm looking for? More desperately than that striker position, because you do have Messi, who will guarantee you a certain amount of goals over the next sort of 2 or 3 seasons. You would expect he will start to decline, but him and Suarez will get more than enough goals between them in order to get a decent finish in the league for Barca. So what I've actually done is I've looked at left back, which is a position. I've not really heard many rumours apart from this one, actually. Obviously, we've talked about left-backs previously in Transfer Window Waffle, the likes of Alex Tellez, Alex Grimaldo as well, Junior Firpo. I'm going to touch on another guy who is a bit of an unsung hero in Lyon's young side, is 23-year-old Ferland Mendy, who is their left-back. He's actually been linked with Liverpool as a potential kind of alternative to Andrew Robertson. He's been linked with Real Madrid and Barcelona in the press too. So if we just touch on a little bit about Ferland Mendy, he's kind of very similar in terms of his statistics and his style of play to Jordi Alba, who has been playing in that left-back role for the majority of the campaign for them. By February, 2 successful take-ons per 90. He's only touted at around 40 million euros as well. Very versatile left-back. Obviously, he's performed very well defensively for Lyon. They've managed to finish third. And, as a defensive left-back, he's been very good, but he's also very great at, bombing down that left-hand flank, combining with Memphis Depay, getting into the final third and, putting a few assists in there as well. 1.4 tackles per game, 1.1 interceptions, 1.2 clearances. Alba has 1.2 tackles, so round about the same, just a little bit worse than Mendy. 1.7 interceptions, so that's 0.6 better, and 1.5 clearances, so 0.3 better. So he's not far off at all, really, Ferland Mendy. And as I said, he's only 23. I think Jordi Alba's about 30-odd.
Yeah, he's getting on.
I think that's right. So they don't really have any cover in that position. It's really been Jordi Alba who's been relied on. So I think Ferland Mendy could be a decent suggestion. Do you guys have any defenders? Because they have been linked with some centre-backs. Do you have a centre-backs or any full-backs maybe either?
No.
No?
I mainly have midfielders.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I didn't really focus on the defenders because I think the defenders are a lot. I think Semedo's really got a lot of potential.
Definitely, yeah.
I think the goalie's good. I think the centre backs are fine. Longley looked good. He got a bit caught out the other night, and I did say a few weeks ago on a podcast, that Longley would be the one that I'd focus on. And it did seem like Origi did put himself on Longley a lot. Yeah. So hopefully Origi must have listened to the Kickback podcast.
100%. I've heard that he does. I think some of the Liverpool players do in the dressing room after the big games. But yeah, no, I completely agree. I think there's been a sort of too much of a focus on signing a centre-back. We've seen this persistent link to Matthijs de Ligt from Ajax, who's also now, that deal almost seemed like it was wrapped up after, obviously, Frenkie de Jong signed from Ajax as well. And there seems to be this long-standing relationship between the two clubs. But there's been kind of almost stronger rumours about him going to Juventus recently as well. We've seen a bit of a downturn in their defensive statistics this season, a lot of ageing players in their defence. So what midfielders do you guys have then? Do you have anybody interested in some big name players or some sort of slightly lesser candidates in terms of maybe some budget ones as well?
Midfielders, no, the one I focused on was Neres from Ajax.
Oh, right, yeah.
Just a player who I think will be available, a player who seems to know where the goal is.
Definitely. I think it's a good shout.
I think Neres has a lot of class as well. I was torn between Neres and Ziyech. Maybe they'll both be available, but yeah, I think Neres has got a future in the game at a top European club. It'd be interesting to see how much he's going to cost. Right. And Barcelona, they need an overhaul, and I think he's a perfect player to come in and fill that void for an aging Suarez. Yeah,
they're at that point where they have certain areas of the squad that they just really need to get a new kind of generation going. Obviously, we had Iniesta and Xavi moving on over the last 5 years or so to the Middle East and to Japan, respectively. And they brought in Arthur, they've brought in Frenkie de Jong, obviously. They've got Rakitic still there. They brought in Arturo Vidal. There's these persistent links to Adrian Rabiot as well. But a lot of clubs are kind of turning their nose up at his attitude at the moment, I think. So it's a difficult one. I think, they do need, they need a Busquets replacement, perhaps, a Rakitic replacement, both into their 30s now. So it's a difficult one. But Lewis, have you got anybody else who needs touching on? And
well, one of the players you just mentioned is someone I have on here, and that's Rabiot. And
right, yeah.
I thought purely because he's going to be a free agent.
I think he'd be like literally any club. I think should take him.
Why not take a chance?
Because even if he ends up being just a troublemaker,
you can just sell him.
You can and then you'll be able to sell him for something.
You're not losing money then.
That is true.
And then another one which I thought about. Then I thought they've already got De Jong, but I wouldn't put it past them to sign another young midfielder. I've got Yuri Tielemans Tielemans.
I think that's a really good idea. I still don't get why he's out on loan at Leicester.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit of a weird one because I've seen him being linked to Arsenal. They look like they might be selling El Neni. So I think a move for him, to be in a midfield three with Torreira and who's the other guy? Guendouzi, maybe. That would be a decent little setup for Arsenal. But yeah, definitely. I think Tielemans would be a brilliant shout for Barca. I think people kind of underestimate how good he is in terms of the fact that he's playing for Leicester. It's a bit of a weird one, but I think Tielemans is a really good shout. Do either of you guys have anybody else? And
well, I have one more, and this is very out there, but I've
gone left field, as I would say.
This is more than left field. I've gone
so left field is right field.
Yeah, I've gone with Dybala. And
nice.
I've gone with that because I feel like he could bring more to the midfield.
Yeah.
And also I've heard that he might not be that happy about kind of being in Ronaldo's shadow at Juventus, and his production has gone down as well.
Definitely.
So I think
that's down to Ronaldo being there.
I could see that because he's young, he's only 25.
Yeah.
He might not like that. I could see him moving somewhere else because of that, but that's just out there.
I think so. I think that would be really good for them. I've seen, he's kind of played in not really as a straightforward striker. He's kind of played in bits on the wing, bits behind strikers and things like that. But I have also seen sort of quiet rumours of him being a long-term heir to Suarez or to Benzema at Real Madrid. I think that could be a really good one to go for because he can play with Suarez, I think, but he could also be that striker replacement. There's also, in terms of the striker situation with Suarez being phased out maybe because of his gradual decline, I've heard that maybe Lionel Messi could be the guy to fill that straightforward number 9 role. How would you guys feel about that?
And then put Dybala behind him?
Yeah, and then replace, fill in some gaps around him, but move Messi into that centre forward position. He has played there already.
I think Messi would be, as he's getting older, I'd probably push him a bit further up the pitch and let him be that focal point. But for now, I think there's players Barcelona can sign and let Messi's most advantageous in that position just behind the striker.
I think he is.
Because the linking up is what makes Messi the best in the world and how he gets the passes through. And how the defender will go with the attacker and free up the space for Messi, that's when he does his best work.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be inclined to let Messi go into that role just yet. I think it's a bit early. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think a player I was thinking of maybe that has just sprung to my mind.
Yeah.
Which Man City fans won't be happy about this, but Felix João, the Benfica striker.
Yes. Yeah.
He's a long-term investment. He's Brazilian. So you're
going to say Gabby Jesus for a minute?
No, Felix João. I think he scored a hat-trick. Did he score a hat-trick against Eintracht Frankfurt?
I think so. Yeah,
in the Europa League.
Yeah.
Obviously, this could be really raw and, bit early to say. I mean, I've not watched the kid much, but I've heard really good things about him.
Yeah.
Barcelona seem to be a player a club who really need young players. I can't believe they won't go for De Ligt. They're obviously getting De Jong. But then they're signing Griezmann, which completely goes against it, but there you go. So I would look at Felix João. Man City have already spoke to the parents of him. 50 million for a kid of that age is a risk.
He looks like pretty risky, but
he looks like he's got a lot of potential, and these Brazilian kids usually do have a little bit up their sleeve. So
it's one of those things I think we've spoken about it before. How it's similar to the Eredivisie when you get a player from Liga NOS in Portugal, they can either be a Cristiano Ronaldo or they can be a Kleberson
or a Bebe
or an Islam Slimani. They can be that level of just the complete opposite, basically. So you never really quite know what you're getting. But I think Felix is a really good shout. There's obviously been rumours of Luka Jovic. There's been rumours of Icardi, I think, as well. I've not heard too much about Timo Werner. I think he's more been linked to obviously Bayern, but also to Real a little bit more so than Barca. But I don't know. What positions do we think we're gonna sign? What are the 3 positions you think are the most kind of obvious that need need a new fresh face.
I think they need someone in that central midfield role.
Yeah, I think they've Vidal aging, De Jong I think will be very beneficial for them. But yeah, as Nick said earlier, I think Arthur, he's not really ready. I think Busquets, getting on and you've seen his decline. The same thing with Rakitic, who has Inter Milan written all over him. So who should we put in this central midfield position? Or do you think it's more of a central defensive? Do you think it's more of a defensive mid sort of deep lying player?
I'm not sure.
Or do you need both? Who knows?
I think Eriksen was maybe.
Yeah,
I could see. Yeah, I can see Eriksen happening.
Eriksen in the midfield three, I think, works. But it depends on what sort of.
Busquets still got a few years in him in that defensive role.
I think so. We've seen Fernandinho in his
like
mid-30s in a similar-ish role.
Will stay there as long as you don't give the ball to him. He can still just hack at players for 9 minutes. So
that's
I
true.
can see him still doing it.
Yeah.
Even I think Longley could fill that role as well. There's players they can put there. So I don't think that's as urgent. I think it's the creative side which against Liverpool was severely lacking.
Yeah.
Which is why probably Dybala, Rashford I think you said as well.
Yeah.
And Eriksen. So I'd be inclined to say Eriksen.
You happy with Eriksen then, Lewis?
Yeah,
I think people have compared him to potentially being a long-term Iniesta type player. I think he's been kind of rumoured more with Real Madrid if they can't get Hazard. I've heard a lot of them going for Eriksen as a sort of second
the Hazard
choice.
Deal's done apparently.
Yeah, I'm hearing that it's done.
Apparently it's going to be unveiled after the Europa League final.
I think Hazard's definitely said that his future's been decided, but he's not.
He's told the club
actually
apparently
said
as well.
which way that is in terms of the fans and everything.
He said top four's changing, I think, either. Which
yes,
I think
that's true.
Top four. I don't know why these clubs keep seeing it as a trophy nowadays.
No, I've no idea.
Why finish in the top four?
Aim a bit higher.
If you're not going to do any well in the tournament. Chelsea without Hazard. Fair enough, Pulisic is coming. He's no Hazard, though, is he?
He's not, no.
So
he's not been as good as he was that one breakthrough season.
You take Chelsea in the Champions League next year if you're a European club. Because they won't.
Well, especially without Hazard.
That's what I mean. They won't have their man, will they? So
that is very true.
And then if Kante goes, they're in deep trouble.
They are.
Because they haven't got that star player then.
Plus, obviously, Villa are going to get promoted, and then we'll sign Tammy Abraham off them. So they'll have no strike force. Higuain won't come back. Morata won't come back. They'll be stuck with.
Giroud's a free agent, isn't he?
Yeah, he'll leave on a free, and then they'll be playing.
And aren't they getting rid of Cahill as well?
Yeah, Cahill's going. I think David Luiz is going.
Yeah. This is a rebuild. This is.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, obviously Chelsea would be a good team to do in Transfer Window Waffle, but they can't sign anyone, so it'd be a bit useless. So we lock in Eriksen. Yep, happy with that. How do you feel about Mendy? Do you think that's needed yet? Do you think they need that potential alternative / replacement for Jordi Alba?
I think they could have someone as a backup, but I don't think to start just yet.
No. How do you feel about him, Nick? Do you think... Because I don't think a player of Ferland Mendy's calibre and his sort of clout in terms of who's heard of him and like how much of a household name he is, I don't think he will be a guaranteed starter at Barca. I don't think he'll walk in there. I think he'll be a bit of a maybe like a Nelson Semedo, but on the opposite side. Do you think he would be a good signing?
Yeah, I do. I think maybe...
Yeah.
If I was Barcelona, maybe get the signing done and send him out somewhere, Valencia, maybe even back to his club. But maybe, as I said a few minutes ago, maybe I think defence is fine. I think they've got some really good players.
I think people have overreacted about how much their defence needs bolstering.
The game wasn't lost in the defence the other night. It just wasn't. I know they were bad at the corner, but if you look at the players who were around the ball for the corner, it was attacking players.
Yeah.
So the game wasn't lost at the back, the game was lost in the middle.
Yes, I think that's true.
No creative spark.
Exactly. So I think attacking players are literally imperative for Barcelona going forward.
Who should our second candidate be then, do you think? Is there any...
Dybala was a really good shout, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And the fact he's going to be available is really important.
I think as well, because obviously at Eriksen and Dybala you're going to set yourself back a fair amount, but I think that they will sell. I think they'll sell Malcolm. and I think they'll still get a fair amount of money if maybe Roma want to go back in for him, or Arsenal need a bit of pace down the wing. Even Man United as well, Malcolm could be a fair shout for them. There's some other players, some other assets that they could maybe sell. Well, obviously there's still big rumours that Coutinho could be leaving, and he would add a fair amount to their transfer budget. So I think it's realistic, but maybe our third candidate a bit more of a budget one, perhaps. Do you reckon? We can lock in Dybala if you're both happy with that.
Yeah, happy with Dybala.
Yeah, so Eriksen and Dybala. Do you reckon we go for someone a little bit cheaper for number 3?
Well, I was thinking Lacazette, so that's out the window.
That's a good shout, though. I like Lacazette.
I thought that was a really shrewd shout.
Yeah,
actually.
I did. It's weird because I saw an article. I think it was this morning when I was doing a bit of research. It said Lacazette to Barcelona, and I was like, actually, no one's mentioned that before. I've not heard about that before. But that's literally perfect. It's somebody like Firmino as well. I know, obviously, Nick won't be very happy, but that kind of player, I think, at Barca would be quite good. But yeah, I mean, Lacazette's great, but anybody else, or do you think Lacazette is a good one to go for?
Yeah.
Because obviously, to be fair, like I think if they're selling these players, like if they have assets to sell, and if they do sell Coutinho,
may as well buy.
Yeah, if they sell Coutinho and they sell Malcolm, and who else could they potentially sell? I mean, we saw him move
Rakitic,
out.
I think that
Inter can spend whatever on him.
I think that transfer to Inter is basically a done deal.
Yeah, it seems like it's
probably just the fee. I think it's about 50 million euros.
Yes, that's a poor investment there.
Yeah,
if ever I've seen one. But he fits in with the Eastern European contingent in midfield over there. So yeah, I mean, if you're getting 50 mil for Rakitic, you're getting however much for Coutinho and for Malcolm, then maybe you can sign Dybala, Eriksen and Lacazette.
He's valued at £45 million.
Who's that?
Rakitic.
Yeah. It's probably fair. But, I mean, there's other candidates who you'd probably rather go for over in a bit. Inter Milan. So, should we go for Lacazette? Do you pop him in? Do you reckon that's fine?
I think Lacazette's a good shout.
Yeah, so we'll say Lacazette. So, players that we think should go to Barca are Eriksen, Dybala and Lacazette. So do let us know if you think that they're a good 3 players. Do you think they need a different area to strengthen? Do you think...
Yeah, tell us how wrong we are.
Yeah, tell us
That's what people love to do these days.
Kickbacksportspod@gmail.com is our email, as I've said. Twitter and Instagram @kickback_pod. And then we also have our Facebook, which we will leave in the description and on the side, because I can't quite remember the link. So, no preparation. I need to get back into the swing of things. I think what we're going to do is move on to our question. So the question has come very kindly from my dad. I'm not going to make up a name for him and pretend that we have people sending us questions left, right and centre. But he's asked us, of the teams relegated from the Premier League this season, who do you think's most likely to bounce straight back up, if anyone? I think it's an interesting one. Obviously, we touched on Fulham earlier on in the pod today. The other 2 relegated sides, Huddersfield Town and Cardiff City. So I'll hand over to you guys. Do you reckon any of these 3 clubs can go back up? Do you think any of them will strengthen in the correct way? Obviously, it's a big financial drop-off when you get relegated. But what are your thoughts on these 3 clubs and their fortunes for next season?
Well, I'm going to repeat myself. I've said this many times. I really think it depends on who they keep, because usually you'll see teams that go down, their best players will usually leave to either the teams going up or the teams still in the Premiership. So I think if they lose their best players, I don't think any of the teams will go up.
No. I mean, that's the thing. Obviously, Fulham, if you look at Fulham's squad, they are leaps and bounds ahead of Cardiff and Huddersfield, in my eyes. I see Cardiff and Huddersfield as having, bog standard mid-table championship sides. I think I could rattle off, a number of championship clubs who have better squads than Cardiff and Huddersfield.
I think they just went up too early. Like, they weren't ready for it.
I think massive credit to David Wagner for keeping them up for that season, Huddersfield. But this season, it's just been, they've been exposed in in just too many ways. You know, they don't have a striker who can score goals. Their defence has been very porous as well. Cardiff obviously had more of a bash at staying up, and credit to Neil Warnock because he did. I think they've actually done really well considering their squad. Obviously the Emiliano Sala situation as well, which wasn't easy for any party involved at all, obviously. But Nick, how about you? Do you think that they will strengthen? Obviously, I think Neil Warnock's staying on at Cardiff. Scott Parker's been handed the role on a permanent basis at Fulham, and I think Jan Sievert, I think is the name of the Huddersfield manager now, the former Dortmund B team coach. Who do you think's most likely to keep them in contention for promotion next season, back up to the top flight?
I think Fulham have the finance and the the business model to do it. Obviously, this season with the transfers has been a complete wipeout. They've signed the wrong players. They've put players on huge wages who probably aren't worthy of what they've been put on. So I'd say Fulham are the team. Fulham, you could do some shrewd business next season. They could sign some players. I mean, they have a budget now. Obviously, they've been relegated, but the owner will want to get them back. Yeah. We'll go on to get them back to the Premier League. So Fulham realistically have the best chance. Cardiff are just full of heart. I have a lot of respect for Cardiff, a lot of respect for Warnock. I just think their squad wasn't good enough. They'll struggle to keep Camarasa, who's been a real asset for them.
I think so, yeah.
And then a couple of their other players, they may struggle to keep. Maybe even Morrison at the back. A lower league Premier League team will take him on. Etheridge had a good year. They might struggle to keep him.
Yeah, I've been really impressed by Etheridge. As you said, like a mid-table, bottom half Prem team could pick up Etheridge, I think, and he'd be a solid keeper for them. But yeah, you look at the squads and who you'd actually take to put into a Premier League squad. Fulham have the most, like Mitrovic. I think a lot of bottom half Prem teams would be itching to get him. Even someone like maybe an Everton, who don't necessarily have a nailed on number 9s in a starting position for them. But then obviously I think some clubs will look at his time at Newcastle and think maybe it's a bit of a risk.
I think Everton have a lot of players like Mitrovic, like Calvert-Lewin and Tosun.
Tosun, yeah.
They're both really good in the air, similar to Mitrovic. They're both big kids, so I think maybe Everton would look at someone different. I was thinking more of someone like Leicester or someone like that could take him and just bring him in, because but then it wouldn't suit Leicester's style of play. So
no,
and
that's
just
a difficult one.
On another note, Huddersfield have got no chance. Huddersfield's squad, it's got to be the worst Premier League squad in history.
Right up there. I can't think of a single player in that side who would warrant staying in the Prem. Really, I think Lursel's had his moments in goal, but they've been playing Ben Hamer a few times. They've been playing Carlin Ahern-Grant as their striker, who came from, I think
he's got a little bit of potential.
He came from Charlton.
Yeah, a little bit.
It reminds me of when Villa brought Jordan Bowery in from League One and started playing him when we were in the Prem, which made absolutely no sense. But yeah, he has potential, and hopefully getting relegated and staying in that Huddersfield team, maybe he can kick on now. But I would say you'd still have to look at Fulham, because they have that kind of model, as you were saying, financially, where they do have saleable assets in terms of your Seri. On Gisa, maybe someone will still take a punt on, perhaps. If they can keep hold of Mitrovic, remember how well he did for them in the Championship. And I think Scott Parker obviously pulled off a couple of victories since it was confirmed that they went down. So, maybe he's got some sort of decent managerial qualities in him. What about you, Lewis? Do you think that there's a standout out of those three clubs who could go straight back up? Or do you think it's might be another club's time to take on the Premier League challenge?
I'm just going to be boring and just make it the same answer for everyone. If I'd say Fulham,
because I think it's most realistic.
Obviously, because of the owner and how much money he's got, the greatest owner ever.
Apparently so.
But I think if they spend the money right, then they could easily come back up.
Yeah.
And if they spent their money right, they could probably stay in the Premiership as well. It's just getting the transfers right.
That's the thing.
Problem.
I mean, that's exactly what we were talking about earlier with Getafe. When I compared them to to Fulham. In terms of Fulham did it all wrong, where they come up, they have that massive financial boost in terms of getting that promotion from the Championship to the Prem, and then they went out and signed, I can't remember how many players it was. It was, close enough to 15 players, I think, in that window. And the players didn't really fit into a system together. They were just signing names. They were just kind of looking at what players were in the press as being, your new up-and-coming players, your Seri, Ongisa, and bringing those sort of guys in. Also bringing in Schürrle, which was a bit of a surprise, Vieto, Sergio Rico from Sevilla, and these players didn't fit into a system together. And they've been pretty decent on the attack, but their defence has been disgusting all season, and that's been where that's been their major downfall. So if Fulham keep hold of the money, they rebuild well, and they sell some of their players in when they get into the Championship this summer, then if they come back up, they need to have their wits about them, and they need to be much more careful in terms of who they sign, and much more sort of nitpicky rather than just signing any player who comes up. I remember I used to see like a new player come into Fulham every single day in the transfer window. There'd be someone new who would be like, wow, Fulham have signed someone else. If they sell some of those, they keep hold of some of them, because I think they would be good in the Championship for them. But they need to be more steady about it, and more kind of meticulous. Fulham. I think we can all agree that it's Fulham who are probably going to be the guys most likely to come back up. So, do you two have anything else to say before we wrap this podcast up?
No.
No?
Again. All mentioned,
yeah. I think it's been a good comeback for us. We will be back now on a weekly basis. Obviously, we had a little break last week, but we will be back to uploading every Sunday. Exciting times for me and Nick in terms of going to into a Champions League final and into a
thanks for that
Championship playoff final for Villa against either Leeds or Derby. That will be decided tonight, and I don't know really what Lewis has to look forward to. I'm sorry.
Well, the NFL's nearly back on, so
there we go.
There's something I can look forward to.
Just ignore football for now, I think. Yeah. So thank you to you guys for listening. I've run through our contact details a few too many times probably, so obviously look to the right hand side of your SoundCloud to check those out. Also, they'll be in the description. Do remember to get in with any questions to us and any of those contact details for future editions of Kickback. Meanwhile, have a look through some of our older podcasts, and we'll hope to have you on board listening to us once again next week. So thank you for listening. See you next week.